I'm not either.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, well, the 3 was the announcing publicly, because I think what also happened with that bond resolution is there was a new resolution posted quickly before the board meeting, and then there was not a public notification and discussion of that. So I'm suggesting that not only are the attachments clearly put on there, every revision that occurs has to be attached to that, but that also the superintendent designee states that there have been revised documents posted less than 72 hours, and just explain why that has happened. And frequently there's a very good reason for why that's happened. And it's better to have an updated document than to have something faulty and just say, well, too bad we stuck it on there and we have to go with it. So I'm suggesting that this needs to be publicly announced so that there is clarity, because you end up with just too big a firestorm of confusion when documents are changed on the public agenda, and then that's not clearly specified to the public, and then there's not a public announcement that this has occurred, and those those new documents are made available to the public.
I have to apologize, board members. For some reason, I do not have access to bring us to the current agenda item or anything like that. It's like my duties.
What number are we on right now?
We are actually on number 15.27.
Okay, I'm on the right one.
Anyway, that's the gist of it.
Originally, when I opened this the first time, there was a different attachment
right.
that matched not at all what this was there. So forgive me for my confusion.
So on preceding agendas, we've had items that have come forward that are bylaws and policy changes that have been information items, and that those have come back again and again and again as information items. Can we make sure that if we're going to place something on as information, that it's ready to go prime time, so that the next meeting we can deal with it, so we're not continually discussing without coming to conclusion?
Well, this was
I know.
being brought on by a different board member. So I believe this is only related to, and I'm hoping what everyone is seeing on their agenda is a summary that has some descriptions with bullet points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there is no attachment to it.
Correct.
Because that is not what I had originally when I came up, and I apologize.
Because I have the attachment as well, and it did not have these inserts in that document.
It was the wrong attachment, though.
Well, there's my point on these attachments.
Oh, it was not. I think it was a system error, because when I opened them, that's why I was confused when I
don't believe there was an
totally
attachment.
different.
Well, but we
There's no
got the same
attachment.
thing.
Somehow
Okay.
we had a system glitch.
Okay.
All right. So my concern is that we don't have the information. I recognize that you're looking for direction, whether this is on the agenda for the next time or not. Perhaps that's one comment. The second thing is, this does not present bylaw 9322 with the information inserted where the proposer would like to see this. And my final comment is, it seems like much of this is an AR, not necessarily the board bylaw.
Well, when I originally submitted it, Mrs. Mayo, it showed which parts. I didn't submit it like this. It showed which parts were amending the bylaw. I did it in italicized or something. So there was, I don't know what happened in translating it. It was cut and paste, it looks like, to this agenda. So my original one did show.
Well, I mean, I think that this is the quandary that we fall into when, rather than the board providing direction to the superintendent to make policy and bylaw changes that adhere to a direction that we're providing, we're in a situation where we actually have one board member that's suggesting that we make specific language changes to a particular bylaw. I think we're skipping a step and moving into the role of one of the superintendent's roles as opposed to providing a more overview, more of an oversight and directive role rather than actually drafting bylaw language.
No, and board members simply have a discussion around that, Mr. Eberhardt, and if you disagree with it, then you propose something different or you vote against it. But we are able to amend bylaws, and this is the process to do it. And this is what I'm saying on our last agenda item, on future agenda items, there isn't this sort of specificity. It's a very vague statement. I'm trying to give you actually, specificity here, which is what's missing on our last one. And so if you disagree with it, that's fine, and you can come up with other alternatives.
I'm not saying that I disagree with it, but it's largely why many of these motions that you've brought forward haven't even gotten a second, is because the language is so, it's just not standard language that that makes the bylaw work out well for our staff and the community and everybody involved. Whereas I think that's the expertise that staff can bring to this process, whereby we provide some overarching direction about which direction we want to go, and then they provide the language and some research to determine whether or not the language adheres to things such as the education code and norms and things like that, so that when something's brought in front of us, we have some ability to indicate to the community that this has been researched, it's been vetted, it does meet the criteria that is spelled out in law and all those things, so that we can make a decision on whether or not we approve or disapprove or need tweaks to the language of a bylaw. So you're right that there is a process, and I would submit that this does not fit into that process.
Well, it is not staff's responsibility to write board bylaw.
Yeah, I just, on this, if it is going to come forward, I do have a concern with item number 6. And I just think about tonight's meeting, one of the updates we put on, Mr. Peterson submitted a list of 16 items. We removed one of the 16 items, and the other items didn't change. So even though and we did post the updated one, so I understand the idea behind that. But I'm just concerned about making it cumbersome depending upon how the complexity or the simplicity of the change.
And again, when an item is presented such as this, I think the importance of it is, first of all, I'm trying to address a problem. Secondly, it should be open for discussion, revision, conversation. If one meeting here this evening is not enough to do that, bring it back forward and we have another discussion. The idea here is to solve a problem and to be proactive and to move forward, and not to learn from past experience is dumb. So the idea is to take what's occurred and try to improve it, and absolutely have a discussion, have some revisions, make some suggestions. But I'm seeing